I can't believe the nerve of that girl, Lola grumbled as she scribbled on a blank sheet of paper. Just throwing a fit because Lincoln told her off. Lana looked up from her paper, staring off into space for a moment as she focused back on her work. You know she used to do that. You used to do that to us too, right? The younger twin glared at her older by a few minutes sibling. No, actually, Lana interrupted. You did that with everyone else besides Mom and Dad. Lola made a sour face. At least I have class when I do it. She then looked up from her paper, scribbling it harder. And I've changed. The young mechanic glanced at her sister, giving her a look over. And you're wearing one of my overalls again. Lola looked up from her paper with a neutral stare in her face. They're comfortable. The two girls were in their art class, with the kids having the task of simply drawing what was on their mind. The twins hadn't said anything much since that confrontation with Lori a couple of hours earlier, but both harbored some resentment towards their oldest sister. One was more open about expressing it than the other, but unlike Lola, Lana couldn't help but draw the parallels between her roommate and Lori. Do you think Lincoln will ever chat with us again, or separately, like us together? The little plumber asked at random. Lola couldn't help but frown spreading across her face. Probably separated, because he'll have an easier time getting along with you than me. Lana picked up the vibe Lola was putting out. Her stomach started to turn into knots when she started feeling guilty about her previous comments. Lola, she put her crayon down. About what I was saying about you and Lori. She awkwardly rubbed the back of her head. I wasn't being that serious. Lola glanced at her twin. You didn't sound convincing. Looking back over her papers, she paused from continuing to draw. While I'd admit I haven't reached for Lori's caliber, and I'm pretty sure Linky puts me in the same boat as her. She made that sorrowful frown. But back then, I actually really liked how Lincoln was actually afraid of me. It made it easier to get him to do what I wanted. Lana tilted her head. You don't think of that now, do you? She realized her mistake as Lola looked at her with a hateful glare. Ask me that again? She spoke in an eerily calm tone as she lifted one of the crayons off the table. And I'll shove this so far up your... Lana raised her hands defensively. Okay, sorry. She put her arm around the younger twin's shoulder. But it's not like what you did was that bad. I mean, sure, you got blackmailed him a few times and nearly made all of us lose our hearing a bit because Lisa didn't know how the prank he had when he had those earbuds, and it was your idea to try and get him to vote for the beach on that one weekend. She then stopped upon noticing the hurtful glare that was coming from her twin. Lana made a sheepish smile. But you did try to buy him your favorite undies, even when he lost that bet, and Lana started to draw blanks. Her eyes opened up when another moment hit her. Oh, and there was that one time we filled in for you at that pageant. The younger plumber rubbed her chin and thought as he glanced back at the ceiling. Wait, doesn't that technically mean it was just us hanging out? Not to mention we sort of went behind your back to do it. Lola's shoulders sank. Lana, I get it. She gently shook the girl's hand and removed it from her shoulder. Whatever time I had with Linky was spent making him do my favorite activities, even when he didn't want to. Even I don't know if he ever thought I was a good sister to him before this. She paused, saying, whatever it was, I'm worried he'll think I'll just act like Lori when I do get to chat with him. She huffed a little. Whenever that will be. The next century, maybe? Lana frowned. You don't have to be alone when you eventually do. But I need to, Lana. Lola turned to her twin. Lincoln might flip out if we come to him at the same time. This isn't like our therapy session. She propped her arms up at the pillow at the elbow, rested her hand on her palms. I wouldn't be surprised if he decided to save me for last. Lana opened her mouth when she thought she could offer some words of encouragement, but nothing came out. Closing her mouth, she stared at her twin as she gazed depressingly at the open air. Well, I mean, it isn't like you've done worse than what Lori did, the young mechanic stated. It's not like you used Link for a footstool or anything. She started picking at her nose. Actually, I think the worst was just Lincoln play butler for your tea parties. The mudslinger avoiding the mentioning of Lola when she physically attacked Lincoln. Knowing it wouldn't help her twin's mood, but went for the same bust of a few of Lincoln's teeth. Lola herself didn't give a reply, although Lana saw the former pageant winner, pursed her lips slightly. Lana released the air from her nose, feeling that she couldn't do much to elevate her sister's woes. Since you've been seeing those crime movies before, she focused back on the drawing, which was of herself and Lincoln, having fun in the mud. It was mostly just a stick figure work to her and Lincoln's hair drawn out, with the heads on her cap on her head. She only started trying to work on the clothing. What do you think Lynn meant when she said Lincoln would have one less sister to worry about? It could mean a few things, really, Lola answered, glancing down at her drawing. A glare started to form on her face, but none of them were pleasant. Her drawing was a bit more detailed than Lana's, having a drawing full of bodies as best as she could, including hair, clothing, even physical lines to show the action of being dealt. True, her mood was pictured depicting herself of smashing Lori to the ground with a giant mallet on the paper. Lola even added a few cracks in the floor just to emphasize how much force was put on behind the swinging. If Lori did make up with Linky, afraid of us again more, I'm going to have to make this picture into the real thing, she mulled bitterly. Lori's moves had hardly improved since leaving the house, and now knowing the few times your school life or home life was making you stressed out, one or the two had just happened to be a safe haven. That was how the oldest sibling was feeling right now. If only school didn't serve as a reminder of how alone she was. After having her social circles disappear, Lori at least found herself some comfort with talking with her sisters. But after last night, the two girls were doing their best to avoid her. Luna had even given her a passing glance of disappointment whenever she noticed her in the halls. Lenny would often give her an awkward wave, but as far as making a conversation, she seemed to unwillingly make it for her. "Hey, Lenny." "Oh, hey, Lori," the fashionist greeted back. "So, you got a minute?" "I would, but..." Lenny hesitated for a moment. "I gotta be in class soon." Lori bit her cheek. "You just started your study period." Lenny again glanced around nervously. "My next class is kinda hard and..." Lori gave a sigh. Never mind. And that was only a half an hour ago. Lori knew Lenny's class was home ed, and which was relatively an easy subject. Lori didn't want to believe Lenny was that slow, but at least before taking her medication to that schedule. "Maybe it's because I blew her off this morning when she just wanted to help," Lori mulled as she held her head propped high with a fist resting on her cheek. "All right, class, we'll be moving forward with our group projects as we discussed before. These will take a month to do." The teacher booted up the projector connected to the laptop. "Normally I would assign you historical figures to research, but I figured," he shrugged, "why not give you all any creative freedom?" He then clicked on a few programs on the laptop. "Now when this sheet is visible on your screen, you will see your group members." He looked at the projector screen. "Give it a sec." Lori suppressed with a groan in passing. She might have been the type of project that's listed as fabulous, but with the low turbulence in her life that happened recently, it completely slipped her mind. Once the projector was done warming up, it broadcasted the laptop screen. The computer was on a Word document that contained a list of everyone in the class divided in groups of 3. One of them was groups of 4 due to the odd number of students. Lori scanned the screen until she found her name, and after that she looked to see 2 more lists of her names underneath it. "Carol's on our team? Well, at least I'm not a complete stranger." She glanced under Carol's names, which was surprisingly long, but she read the name. Her eyes slowly opened up when the look of shock was on her clear face. Her heart started to quicken its pace, while an unsettled feeling in her stomach rose as she silently whispered the nickname with the third person on screen. "Bobby?" Lori gripped the part of her hair with her hand. "How could I have forgot him? Out of all the people in my class, I don't remember seeing Bobby in this room the past several weeks." Lori released her hair and then she began to remember how the things she did months ago, at least when it came to this class in particular. "Then again, I did switch desks the other day. day with Lincoln was admitted to the hospital, so I could sit closer back into the front, and this class would have been of more students than usual. She then sat up straight, and I started doing first in, last out approach when entering and leaving. Mostly so I don't draw my eyes on. Heck, I even forgot Carol was in this class until a couple of weeks ago. Lori let out a sigh. She really needs to pay more attention to her surroundings. It seemed that Bobby had came to the realization on his own, seeing that he turned in general direction from what she could see over the heads of other students. The Loud sunk into her desk with an anxious look in her face. I'm not ready for this. I am so not ready for this.